A single mother was thrown out of the church after the wedding until a millionaire stepped forward. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. It was a day that should have been the happiest of her life, but for Sarah, it quickly turned into a nightmare. After years of struggling to make ends meet, Sarah had finally found the man she thought would be the love of her life. They had planned their wedding carefully, keeping it simple yet meaningful. She had always dreamed of a beautiful wedding. But more importantly, she dreamed of a fresh start. A chance to finally provide a stable life for her son and herself. Sarah stood in the church, her heart racing as she took her vows, surrounded by close friends and a few family members. But as soon as the ceremony was over, things took an unexpected turn. Sarah was suddenly ushered out of the church. Her breath caught in her throat as she stood outside, cold and confused. The reality hit hard. The pastor had called her out in front of everyone. "This is not a place for someone like you," he had said, his words sharp and cutting. The church had a strict policy about who could and couldn't be married there. The fact that Sarah was a single mother was something the pastor could not overlook. She was made to leave with her son, humiliated and heartbroken. As Sarah walked away, tears streaming down her face, she didn't know what to do. She had dreamed of this day for so long, and now it was all falling apart. Her mind raced with thoughts of what her son would think when they went home with nothing to show for all the sacrifices she had made. But just as she was about to give up, a voice called out to her. "Wait," said a calm, commanding voice. Sarah turned around, wiping her tears, and saw a man standing behind her. He was tall, well-dressed, with a confidence that seemed to radiate from him. His presence was like a force that instantly demanded attention. "Are you all right?" he asked, his tone soft but firm. I don't know," Sarah replied, struggling to hold back her sobs. "I thought this was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, but now I have nothing. I've been rejected because of my past." The man stepped closer, his eyes filled with understanding. "I saw what happened in there. You don't deserve this." He paused, then added, "I want to help you." The words hung in the air. Sarah looked at him, unsure of what he meant. Help? How could someone like him, a complete stranger, help her? But before she could speak, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card. "My name is David Carter. I'm a businessman. I can offer you a solution to your problems, but you have to trust me." Sarah's mind spun. Who was this man, and why was he offering to help her? She didn't know what to think, but in that moment, she felt a glimmer of hope. Could this be the chance she had been waiting for? Or was it just another empty promise? She had nothing left to lose, so she decided to listen. As Sarah took the card, she felt a strange mix of gratitude and fear. Was this the beginning of something that would change her life forever? Or would it only lead to more heartache? Asterisk. A single mother was thrown out of the church after the wedding until a millionaire stepped forward. Asterisk. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Sarah couldn't believe what had just happened. The day she had spent months dreaming about, planning, and hoping for had been reduced to a humiliating moment in front of strangers and people who were supposed to support her. The church had turned her away, and now, standing outside with her son by her side, she felt lost. She wiped away the tears, trying to steady her breathing as she glanced at the man who had approached her, David Carter. His calm, composed demeanor stood in stark contrast to her own turmoil. She didn't know if she should trust him or run away. She didn't even know who he really was, but something about him felt genuine. David's eyes softened as he looked at Sarah. "I know this is a lot to take in right now, But I can help you, if you'll let me. His voice was firm but kind, and for the first time that day, Sarah felt a flicker of hope. She had no idea how or why this man was offering to help her, but she had to admit that she was desperate. I don't even know what to say, Sarah managed to say, still in shock. Why would you want to help me? David paused for a moment, then replied, I've seen people go through hard times, and I know that sometimes all it takes is someone willing to give you a hand up. I don't want anything from you, but I believe I can make a difference in your life. Sarah looked down at her son, who was still holding her hand tightly. He didn't understand the full weight of the situation, but she knew he could feel her distress. She thought about the life she had promised him, the future she had hoped for. She had failed him today, and now it felt like everything was slipping through her fingers. David handed her a business card. Here's my card. I can offer you a job at my foundation, a place to stay, and I'll make sure you and your son are taken care of. Sarah stared at the card in her hand, unsure of what to make of this offer. It felt like a lifeline, but it also felt like she was stepping into something unknown. And what's the catch? She asked cautiously. There is no catch, David replied, his tone sincere. But I want you to think about it. I can't change what happened today, but I can offer you a chance to start over. You deserve a better life, and so does your son. For a moment, Sarah was silent. She didn't know if she could trust this stranger, but the desperation in her heart pushed her to say, I'll think about it. David nodded. Take your time, but just know that you don't have to face this alone. As Sarah walked away from the church with her son, her mind was racing. She was confused, unsure, and afraid, but there was a small part of her that believed David. She couldn't ignore the possibility that this could be the opportunity she had been waiting for. But was she ready to trust someone she didn't know? Would this be her chance to rebuild her life? Or was it just another risk she was taking? The next few days passed in a blur. Sarah couldn't stop thinking about the offer. She had to make a decision, but she wasn't sure how to proceed. David's offer seemed too good to be true. She spent hours going over the details in her mind, wondering if she could trust him, wondering if she should just give up and try to figure it out on her own. But every time she looked at her son, she knew she couldn't keep struggling like this. Finally, she called David. Her hands were trembling as she dialed his number. When he answered, she said, I've thought about your offer. I want to meet with you. David agreed to meet her the next day. As Sarah hung up the phone, a sense of relief washed over her. Maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of a new chapter in her life. She didn't know what the future held, but she was ready to take the first step toward something better. Asterisk. A single mother was thrown out of the church after the wedding until a millionaire stepped forward. Asterisk. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. The next day, Sarah found herself pacing back and forth in the small apartment she shared with her son. The business card from David Carter sat on the kitchen counter, staring at her, as if silently urging her to make a decision. She had spent hours the night before contemplating what to do. David's offer seemed like a dream, a chance to escape her current life and build something better for her son. But it also felt like a risk. Could she trust him? Was this a genuine offer? Or was there something more to it? Her son, Tommy, was playing in the next room, completely unaware of the chaos swirling in his mother's mind. Sarah watched him for a moment, her heart heavy. She had promised him a better future, but now it felt like every step she took was one step farther from the life she had hoped for. Finally, after much inner turmoil, Sarah decided to take the chance. She picked up the phone and dialed David's number. The phone rang for a few moments before David answered. Hello, Sarah. Have you made your decision? Her voice was shaky as she spoke. Yes, I've thought it over. I want to meet with you. I want to hear more about what you're offering. David's voice was calm and reassuring. I'm glad to hear that. Let's meet at my office tomorrow. I'll explain everything in detail. I think you'll find it a good opportunity. The next day, Sarah walked into the sleek office building in downtown, feeling like a fish out of water. The glass doors opened automatically, and she stepped into a modern lobby with polished marble floors and a receptionist who greeted her with a professional smile. She had never been in a place like this before. It was intimidating, but at the same time, it gave her a sense of hope. Maybe this was the change she had been looking for. She was led to a conference room where David was waiting for her. He stood up as she entered, offering her a warm smile. "Thank you for coming," he said, as they shook hands. Sarah took a seat across from him, still feeling a bit out of place. She had never imagined herself in a setting like this, but here she was. David began to explain his proposal in more detail. "As I mentioned before, I run a foundation that supports various causes, including helping single mothers like yourself. We have a program that provides financial support, job training, and housing for people who are struggling to get back on their feet." Sarah listened intently as David spoke, her mind racing. This was exactly what she needed, but there was a part of her that still hesitated. "And what do you expect in return?" she asked, trying to sound more confident than she felt. David leaned forward slightly, his eyes meeting hers. "All I'm asking is that you work with us. We'll help you find a stable job, provide you with a home, and help you get back on your feet. We just need your commitment to the program." Sarah felt a sense of relief wash over her. This was a lifeline, a way out of the darkness she had been living in. But at the same time, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was too easy. Was it really possible for someone like David to just step into her life and offer her everything she had been struggling for? She thought of Tommy, his innocent face looking up at her every day, expecting her to make the right choices for him. This decision wasn't just about her anymore. "I'm willing to give it a try," Sarah said finally, "but I need to make sure that this is real. I need to know that this is going to work for both me and my son." David nodded. "I understand. This is a big step, and I don't expect you to take it lightly. But I promise you, we will support you every step of the way." As Sarah left the meeting, she felt a mixture of emotions. She was excited about the possibility of a new life, but there was still a part of her that was scared. Could she really trust David? Could this offer change everything for her and Tommy? As she walked back to her apartment, Sarah couldn't help but wonder what the future held. But one thing was certain. She was ready to take the first step toward a new life, and she wasn't going to let fear hold her back. A single mother was thrown out of the church after the wedding until a millionaire stepped forward. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Sarah stood outside David's office building, a mixture of emotions swirling inside her. After the meeting, she felt both a sense of relief and uncertainty. The offer he made was too good to pass up, yet a part of her couldn't help but feel wary. She had lived through so many disappointments in her life, and it was hard to believe that someone would offer help without expecting something in return. But as she thought about Tommy, her son, who was waiting for her back at the apartment, she knew she couldn't keep living the way she had. Later that evening, after putting Tommy to bed, Sarah sat at the kitchen table, the business card from David in front of her. She turned it over and over in her hands, wondering if this could be the break she had been waiting for. The weight of the decision was heavy on her chest, but she knew she had to take a leap. Tomorrow, she would return to David's office and accept his offer. The next morning, Sarah woke up early, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. She knew this was the right decision, but the uncertainty still lingered. She got Tommy ready for school, making sure he had everything he needed, then left him with a neighbor while she went to meet David. When she arrived at his office, David greeted her with a smile, his expression warm and welcoming. "I'm glad you decided to come back," he said, as he led her into a conference room. "I've thought about it," Sarah replied, trying to sound confident despite the butterflies in her stomach. "And I'm ready to take the next step." David nodded, his face serious but understanding. "I'm glad to hear that. I know it's a big decision, and I don't want you to feel pressured. But I can promise you, this is a real opportunity to change your life." He handed her a few papers to sign, the legal agreements that would formalize her involvement with the foundation. Sarah hesitated for a moment, her eyes scanning the document, but David reassured her. This is just the beginning. There are no hidden clauses or catches. All we ask is for your commitment and your trust. Taking a deep breath, Sarah signed the papers. She knew this wasn't the end of her struggles, but it was a step in the right direction. "Thank you," she said, her voice a little shaky. "I won't let you down." David smiled and stood up, extending his hand. "I know you won't." Over the next few weeks, Sarah settled into her new life. She moved into a small but cozy apartment provided by the foundation, and she started working part-time at one of the foundation's community centers. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a start. She felt a sense of purpose again, something she hadn't felt in a long time. Tommy adjusted to the new routine as well. He was still young, but Sarah could tell he was happy in their new place. He had his own little room, and though it wasn't much, it was more than they had ever had. For the first time in a long while, Sarah felt like she was finally on the right path. But as time went on, doubts began to creep in. Despite the kindness David had shown her, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that he was keeping something from her. He was always polite, always professional, but there were moments when she caught him watching her with an intensity she couldn't quite place. It made her uncomfortable, but she didn't want to question the one person who had offered her a lifeline. One afternoon, David invited Sarah to a business meeting. It was an important event, and he told her it would be a great opportunity to network and learn more about the foundation's work. Sarah agreed, though she felt a little out of her depth. The gala was being held in a grand ballroom, and the guests were all dressed in expensive suits and dresses. Sarah, in her simple dress and shoes, felt completely out of place. As she stood in the corner, trying to blend in, she saw David across the room, talking to a group of well-dressed individuals. He looked completely at ease, his charm and confidence radiating as he interacted with the guests. Sarah felt a pang of discomfort. It was clear that he was in a different world than she was, and though he had been kind to her, there was still a part of her that didn't belong. But then, something unexpected happened. David made his way over to Sarah, his eyes lighting up when he saw her. "Sarah, I'm glad you could make it," he said, his voice warm. For the first time, Sarah saw a different side of him, a side that was more than just the businessman. There was genuine kindness in his eyes, a kindness that she hadn't realized was there before. "How are you settling in?" David asked, as they stood together in the midst of the bustling event. "It's been good," Sarah replied, her voice a little more confident than before. "I'm getting the hang of things." David smiled. "I'm glad to hear that. You're doing great. Keep it up." For a moment, Sarah felt like maybe, just maybe, she was starting to believe in the change that had begun in her life. But as the night went on, a nagging feeling remained. What was David's true intention? What was he really after? Asterisk, asterisk. A single mother was thrown out of the church after the wedding until a millionaire stepped forward. Asterisk, asterisk. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. The days following the gala were filled with uncertainty for Sarah. Although she had begun to feel a sense of security, her doubts about David's true intentions continued to grow. He had been kind to her, offering her a fresh start. But the way he had looked at her in the past week too intently, too carefully left her wondering if there was more to his offer than simple kindness. Despite her suspicions, Sarah focused on the present. Her life was better now. She had a stable job, her son had his own room, and the foundation provided support when she needed it. Still, the nagging questions wouldn't go away. Was David really offering help out of the goodness of his heart, or was there something he wanted in return? One afternoon, Sarah received an invitation from David to meet him for coffee at a nearby cafe. She agreed, though she felt uneasy. She had seen David in business settings, in the grand ballroom of the gala, surrounded by high-powered people. She had never seen him outside of those worlds, and she wasn't sure if she was ready to get any closer to him. But she also knew that she couldn't avoid him forever. When she arrived at the cafe, she spotted David right away. He was sitting at a corner table, a warm smile on his face when he saw her approach. He stood up to greet her, his mannerisms as polite as always. "Sarah, it's good to see you again," he said, offering her a seat. "Thanks for inviting me," Sarah replied, feeling a little awkward. As she sat down, David ordered coffee for both of them. The conversation began casually, with David asking about how she was adjusting to her new life. "How's the community center going?" he asked, genuinely interested. "It's going well," Sarah answered. "It's a lot of work, but it feels good to be able to help people, especially those who are in situations like mine." David nodded, listening attentively. "I'm glad to hear that. You're doing important work." As the conversation continued, Sarah began to relax, and she found herself opening up more than she had expected. She talked about her dreams of starting a small business someday, of being able to give Tommy the kind of life she had always wanted for him. She even mentioned her doubts about the future, about whether she could truly build a life for herself, free from the struggles she had faced in the past. David listened, his expression thoughtful. When she finished speaking, he sat quietly for a moment, as if considering his next words carefully. "Sarah," he began, his voice softer than usual, "I know things haven't always been easy for you, but I believe in you. You've got a lot of potential." Sarah felt a lump form in her throat. She had never heard anyone say that about her before, not with such conviction. It was comforting, but it also made her wonder if there was more behind his words. David leaned forward slightly, his eyes meeting hers. "I'm offering you more than just a job, Sarah. I'm offering you a chance to change your life, your son's life. I believe you're capable of more than you know, and I want to help you get there." Sarah's heart raced as she listened to him. She wanted to believe him, but she couldn't shake the feeling that there was an ulterior motive. "I appreciate your help, David." "I really do," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "But I need to know, what's the real reason you're doing all of this?" David was silent for a moment, his expression unreadable. Then he spoke, his voice calm but serious. "The truth is, Sarah, I see something in you. You've been through so much, and yet you still have the strength to keep going. I admire that. But there's something else too. I need your help." Sarah frowned. "My help? What do you mean?" David paused before continuing. "The foundation is working on a new project, and we need someone who understands what it's like to struggle, to fight for a better life. I believe you're the perfect person for the job, but I need your commitment, your trust. I can offer you a future, but it's not just about you. It's about making a difference for others too." Sarah sat back in her chair, stunned. She had expected him to want something more from her, but this? She hadn't anticipated it. David wasn't asking for anything personal, he was asking for her help with something that could change the lives of many people, not just hers. As they sat in silence for a moment, Sarah realized something important. She didn't have to accept David's help blindly, but she also didn't have to let fear control her anymore. She had a choice, and for the first time in a long time, it felt like a choice she could make for herself and for Tommy. "I'll help," she said finally, her voice steady. "I'll commit to the project. I want to make a difference." David's eyes lit up with approval, and he smiled warmly. "I knew you would," he said. "I believe in you, Sarah." For the first time in a long while, Sarah felt the weight of her doubts lift. She didn't know what the future held, but she was ready to face it. With David's help, and with her own determination, she had taken the first step toward a new life, one where she could finally build the future she had always dreamed of. Asterisk. A single mother was thrown out of the church after the wedding until a millionaire stepped forward. Asterisk. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. The weeks following Sarah's decision to join David's project felt like a whirlwind. She threw herself into the work with a determination she hadn't felt in years. The community center, which had initially felt like an overwhelming challenge, slowly began to feel like home. She was starting to see the impact she was having on others, and it gave her a sense of purpose. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't just struggling to survive. she was thriving. David's presence in her life, though still mysterious at times, continued to offer a sense of stability. He kept his distance professionally, but his encouragement never wavered. He would occasionally check in on her progress, offering support when needed, but never crossing the line between mentor and something more. It was clear that he wanted her to succeed not just in the project, but in her life as well. But as Sarah's life began to take shape, she couldn't ignore the feelings that were starting to grow inside her. There was something about David that made her feel seen, something beyond his business-like demeanor and philanthropic offers. She was grateful for everything he had done for her, but as time went on, she started to wonder if there was more to their connection than just professional respect. One evening, after a particularly successful event at the community center, Sarah received a message from David asking to meet her for dinner. She felt a knot in her stomach as she read the message. She wasn't sure what to expect, but she couldn't deny the excitement and nervousness that bubbled up inside her. At the restaurant, David was already seated when Sarah arrived. His usual calm and collected demeanor was there, but there was something different in his eyes, a softness that she hadn't seen before. He stood as she approached and greeted her warmly, pulling out her chair for her. "Thank you for coming," David said as they both sat down. "I know you've been working hard on the project, and I wanted to take a moment to talk to you outside of the usual meetings." Sarah nodded, unsure of what he meant, but intrigued nonetheless. "Of course, David. What's on your mind?" David looked at her with a serious expression. "I've been watching you over the past few months, and I have to say, I'm impressed with how much you've grown, not just in the work we've been doing, but in yourself. You've taken on so much, and you're doing it all with grace and determination. I admire that." Sarah blushed slightly, feeling both flattered and uncomfortable. "I'm just doing my best," she replied, looking down at her hands. "I have a lot to prove, not just to you, but to myself." David reached across the table, gently placing his hand over hers. "You don't have to prove anything to me, Sarah. You've already shown more strength than most people ever will." The gesture sent a jolt through Sarah, and she looked up at him, their eyes meeting for a brief moment. She could feel the weight of his words, and yet, a part of her still couldn't fully believe them. She had spent so many years doubting herself, so many years struggling to make it on her own. The idea that someone, especially David, saw her as strong and capable was hard to accept. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I'm not sure I'm there yet. There's still so much I need to do." David's expression softened even more, and he leaned back in his chair. "You've already come so far, and I know there's still more to come. You have a future ahead of you, Sarah, and I believe it's going to be a bright one." Sarah felt her heart flutter, but she quickly pushed the feeling aside. She wasn't ready for that kind of talk. She wasn't ready to think about a future that could include someone like David. She had already learned that life was unpredictable, and she wasn't about to let herself get swept up in something she couldn't control. The conversation shifted to lighter topics, and for the rest of the evening, Sarah tried to focus on the present. But as they parted ways, David's words lingered in her mind. Could it be true? Could she really have a future, a real future, outside of the struggles she had faced? And if so, where did David fit into that future? As Sarah walked home that night, the weight of the evening settled on her shoulders. She wasn't sure what David wanted from her, but she knew she couldn't ignore the connection that was beginning to form between them. She had come so far, and yet, the road ahead still felt uncertain. But one thing was clear: David's faith in her was starting to make her believe in herself again. And that was something she hadn't felt in years. Asterisk, asterisk, a single mother was thrown out of the church after the wedding until a millionaire stepped forward. Asterisk, asterisk. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Sarah had spent the last several months working tirelessly at the community center, building something that not only helped people, but also allowed her to see a future for herself, one that wasn't defined by the hardships of her past. The sense of fulfillment she gained from helping others was something she had never experienced before, and it made her feel stronger and more capable. However, the The feeling of self-doubt she had carried for so long still lingered at the back of her mind, often resurfacing when she least expected it. Despite the progress Sarah had made, there was one thing she couldn't shake: her growing feelings for David. She had tried to ignore them, focusing on her work and her son, but every time she saw him, those feelings became harder to dismiss. She told herself that he had helped her when she needed it most, that his generosity had changed her life, but there was still a question she couldn't answer. Did he care for her in the same way? David had always been supportive, kind, and professional, but Sarah couldn't help but wonder if there was more to their relationship. He had never crossed any boundaries, always treating her with respect, but she couldn't deny the warmth in his eyes when he looked at her, or the way his voice softened when they spoke. It made her feel seen, like maybe she was worthy of something more than she had ever imagined. One evening, after a long day of work, Sarah received a call from David. His voice was calm but serious as he asked if she could meet him. Sarah agreed, feeling a mix of anticipation and nervousness. When they met at the coffee shop, David's usual friendly demeanor was replaced by something more intense. He motioned for Sarah to sit down, his gaze steady and unwavering. "Sarah," David began, his voice low, "I've been meaning to talk to you about something important." She felt her heart race. She had no idea what this was about, but she could sense the gravity in his tone. "What's going on, David?" she asked, her voice tinged with concern. David took a deep breath before speaking again. "I know this may be sudden, but I feel it's time for me to be honest with you. I don't want to hide anything anymore. Over the past few months, I've seen how hard you've worked, how much you've changed, and I can't ignore how I feel about you." Sarah's stomach dropped. She wasn't sure what he meant, but she knew where this was going. She had felt the same way, but hearing him say it out loud left her feeling exposed. David continued, his eyes never leaving hers. "I care about you, Sarah, more than I ever expected. You've become someone very important to me, and I don't want to hold back anymore." Sarah was speechless. Her heart raced in her chest as she processed his words. She had never imagined that David felt the same way. She had assumed his kindness was just that kindness, nothing more. But now, as she looked into his eyes, she could see the truth in them. "David, I don't know what to say," Sarah stammered. "This is all so new. I've never been in a place where I felt like this about someone." David reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "I know this is all happening fast, but I want you to know that I'm not asking for anything. I just want you to know how I feel, and I want you to take your time with this. There's no rush." Sarah took a deep breath, trying to process everything. This was the moment she had dreamed about, yet it still felt unreal. She had come so far from where she had started, and now she had the chance to have something she never thought was possible. "I appreciate your honesty," Sarah said, her voice shaky but sincere. "I've never been good at trusting people, but I'm starting to believe in myself again. Maybe I can believe in this too." David smiled, relief washing over his face. "That's all I wanted to hear. We don't have to rush into anything, Sarah. I just want you to know that I'm here for you, whatever you decide." As they sat together, Sarah realized that this wasn't just about her and David, it was about the life she was building for herself and her son. It was about trust, about opening herself up to the possibility of something more. It wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was ready to take that step. The next few weeks were filled with moments of quiet reflection as Sarah navigated her feelings for David. She wasn't sure what the future held, but she knew one thing. She had come too far to turn back now. With David's support and her own determination, Sarah was ready to face whatever came next, even if it meant taking a leap of faith and love. Asterisk. A single mother was thrown out of the church, after the wedding until a millionaire stepped forward. Asterisk. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. As the weeks passed, Sarah began to settle into the new rhythm of her life. Her work at the community center continued to grow, and she started to feel more at ease in her new role. She found herself thinking about David less frequently, but his presence in her life still remained significant. He was always there when she needed advice, a listening ear, or simply a comforting word. He was becoming a constant in her life, and Sarah couldn't help but wonder if the trust she was building with him was leading somewhere more personal. Still, she held back. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. It was as if the deeper connection she had begun to sense wasn't fully realized yet. But that all changed one afternoon when Sarah received a call from David. His voice was strained, something she had never heard before. "Sarah," he said, his tone serious, "I need you to come to the office. There's something urgent I need to discuss with you." Sarah immediately felt a knot form in her stomach. She had never heard David sound so worried. Without hesitation, she agreed to meet him, and within the hour, she was walking into his office, her heart racing. David was standing by the window when she entered, looking out at the skyline. When he turned to face her, Sarah immediately saw the tension in his eyes. Something was wrong. "David, what's going on?" Sarah asked, her voice filled with concern. David took a deep breath and motioned for her to sit. "There's a situation with the foundation," he began, his voice steady despite the weight of the words. "A major investor is pulling out, and if we don't find a solution soon, we could lose a lot of the funding we've been working so hard to secure." Sarah's heart sank. She had come to admire David's work and dedication, and the thought that the foundation's future was in jeopardy made her feel like the ground beneath her was shifting. "We've been trying to find ways to fill the gap, but it's a massive setback," David continued. "And this isn't just about money, it's about the people we've been helping. If we lose this funding, so many of them will be left without support." Sarah could see the stress in his face, the weight of the responsibility bearing down on him. He had always been so calm, so composed, but now, in the face of this crisis, he looked vulnerable. "I don't know what to do," David admitted, his voice breaking slightly. "I've been working non-stop to figure it out, but I need help. I need someone who knows how to think outside the box, someone who can help us pull through." For a moment, Sarah sat in silence, processing the gravity of the situation. She had never imagined herself in a position to make such a significant difference, but in that moment, she realized that this was her chance. She had been given an opportunity to help, not just for her own sake, but for the future of the people who depended on the foundation. "I'm in," she said firmly, her voice steady. "I'll help you find a solution. We can't let everything we've worked for fall apart." David looked at her, surprise and relief washing over his face. "Are you sure? This is going to be a lot of work, and we're running out of time." "I'm sure," Sarah replied, her confidence growing. "I've seen what this foundation can do, and I won't let it fail. If there's a way to save it, I'll find it." David nodded, clearly grateful. "Thank you, Sarah. I knew I could count on you." Over the next few days, Sarah worked tirelessly with David, brainstorming ideas and reaching out to potential partners and donors. They spent long hours together, drafting proposals, making calls, and doing everything they could to secure the funding needed to keep the foundation running. Sarah had never felt more alive. The urgency of the situation, combined with the weight of the responsibility, gave her a sense of purpose she had never known before. She was no longer just a single mother struggling to make ends meet. She was a force in her own right, working side by side with David to change lives. As the deadline loomed, Sarah felt the pressure building. There were still no guarantees that they would succeed, but she refused to give up. She had come too far to back down now. Finally, on the eve of the deadline, they received the news they had been waiting for. The investor who had initially pulled out had agreed to reconsider, thanks to their efforts and the proposals Sarah had helped put together. The foundation would survive, and the people they served would continue to receive the help they needed. David was overjoyed, and Sarah felt a rush of relief and triumph. They had done it. They had saved the foundation. But as they stood together, celebrating their victory, Sarah realized that this experience had changed her in ways she couldn't yet fully comprehend. She had proven to herself that she was capable of so much more than she had ever imagined, and with David by her side, she knew that the future held endless possibilities. Asterisk. A single mother was thrown out of the church after the wedding until a millionaire stepped forward. Asterisk. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. The success of saving the foundation felt like a turning point for Sarah. As the weeks went by, she started to feel more confident in her role within the organization and in her life as a whole. The weight that had once anchored her down, the fear of failure, and the worry about her future, seemed to lift bit by bit. Her son Tommy was thriving in their new apartment, and Sarah was beginning to imagine a future where she wasn't just surviving but actually living. She had worked hard to get to this point, but there was still something missing. Her feelings for David continued to grow stronger, but she was hesitant to acknowledge them fully. She had been hurt before, and she didn't want to risk it again. However, things were starting to shift. The more Sarah spent time with David, the more she realized that she could no longer ignore the connection between them. She saw the way he looked at her, the way his hand lingered on hers just a moment too long, the subtle gestures that made her heart race. But she still held back. She wasn't ready to face the possibility that there might be something more between them. Something that could complicate the life she was finally building for herself and Tommy. One afternoon, Sarah received a call from David. It was different this time. His voice was calm but serious. "Sarah, I need to talk to you about something important. Can you meet me at my office?" Her heart skipped a beat. She had never heard David sound so serious before. "Of course, I'll be there soon," she replied, trying to keep the unease from her voice. When she arrived at his office, David was already there, waiting for her. He stood up when she entered, a small smile on his face, but there was something behind his eyes that told her this wasn't going to be a casual conversation. "Thank you for coming," David said, motioning for her to sit down. "I've been thinking a lot about everything that's been going on, and I feel like it's time for us to have an honest conversation." Sarah's pulse quickened. She didn't know what to expect, but she could feel the tension in the air. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice calm but her mind racing. David paused for a moment, collecting his thoughts. "Sarah, I've seen how much you've grown over the past few months, how much you've changed, not just professionally, but personally, and I can't ignore the fact that I've developed feelings for you. I care about you more than I ever expected to." Sarah's breath caught in her throat. She had hoped, maybe even suspected, that David felt the same way, but hearing him say it aloud left her speechless. She had never allowed herself to believe that someone like David could feel that way about her. She had spent so many years building walls around her heart, afraid of getting hurt again. But now, in this moment, those walls felt like they were slowly crumbling. I don't know what to say," Sarah managed to say, her voice trembling. "I felt something between us too, but I'm scared. I'm scared of getting hurt again, and I don't want to complicate everything we've worked for." David's gaze softened, and he leaned forward slightly. "I understand your fears, Sarah. I do. But I'm not asking for anything right now. I just wanted you to know how I feel. I want you to know that I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere." Sarah looked into his eyes, and for the first time in a long time, she felt seen. She had spent so much of her life trying to protect herself from pain, but now, standing before David, she wondered if maybe she had been protecting herself from something that could bring her happiness. "I've been afraid for so long," Sarah whispered. "Afraid of trusting people, afraid of what might happen if I let myself feel anything. But you make me want to take a chance." David smiled gently, his hand reaching across the table to take hers. "You don't have to make any decisions right now, Sarah. I just want you to know that you're not alone anymore. Whatever you choose, I'll support you." For the first time in a long time, Sarah felt like she could breathe. The fear that had been holding her back seemed to fade into the background, and she realized that maybe, just maybe, it was time to take a leap of faith. The weeks that followed were filled with new possibilities. Sarah continued to work at the community center, and the foundation's future looked brighter than ever. But now, there was something more, something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in a long time. Hope. She and David spent more time together, talking, sharing stories, and getting to know each other in a way that felt deeper than before. There were no expectations, no pressure, just two people exploring the connection they shared. As Sarah looked ahead, she realized that she had come a long way. She had fought hard for everything she had, and now, with David by her side, she felt like she was finally ready to face whatever came next. She didn't know where their relationship would go, but for the first time in a long time, she was willing to take the journey, wherever it might lead. Asterisk, asterisk. A single mother was thrown out of the church after the wedding until a millionaire stepped forward. Asterisk, asterisk. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Sarah's life had changed in ways she could hardly believe. Not only had she secured a stable job and a future she could be proud of, but her relationship with David had blossomed into something meaningful. She had allowed herself to trust again, something she never thought she would do after all the pain and heartbreak she had endured. But now, as the weeks went by, her feelings for David grew deeper, and she found herself imagining a life that included him, one where they could face challenges together and build a future that was filled with hope. But just as everything seemed to be falling into place, the unexpected happened. It started with a simple phone call from David, asking her to meet him at a local park. When Sarah arrived, she saw him sitting on a bench, his posture straight, his hands clasped in front of him, as if he were preparing for something important. As she approached, she noticed the tension in his face, the usual calm demeanor replaced by something more serious. "David, is everything okay?" Sarah asked, her heart beginning to race. He looked up at her, his expression somber. "There's something I need to tell you, Sarah. Something I've been keeping from you, and it's time you knew the truth." Sarah felt a chill run through her. She couldn't help but wonder if this was the moment when everything she had built with David would come crashing down. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice steady, despite the anxiety bubbling up inside. David took a deep breath. "I've been hiding something from you, something about my past. I didn't want to tell you because I was afraid it would ruin everything we've built, but I can't keep it from you anymore." Sarah's mind raced. She couldn't imagine what David might have been hiding, but she could sense the seriousness in his voice. "David, you don't have to tell me if you're not ready. I just want you to be honest with me." He shook his head. "No, I need you to know. I've spent most of my life building this foundation, trying to make a difference, but it's been part of a bigger plan, one that involves my family's company. I've always kept this part of my life separate, but now the truth has come to light. The foundation might be in danger, and I'm being pressured to hand it over to my family's business interests." Sarah's heart sank as the weight of his words hit her. "What does that mean for the foundation? For the work we've done?" she asked, trying to hold back the surge of emotions that threatened to overwhelm her. David's face grew darker. "It means everything we've built could be at risk. My family wants control of it. They think it's time for me to hand it over and let them take the reins. And honestly, I don't know what to do. I've fought against their influence for years, but now it's getting harder to keep the foundation independent. They have the resources, and I'm afraid they'll destroy everything we've worked so hard for." Sarah's thoughts were a blur. She had come so far in her own life, and the foundation had become a beacon of hope not just for her, but for so many others. The thought of everything unraveling because of corporate greed felt like a nightmare. "So, what does this mean for us?" she asked, her voice trembling. David looked at her, his eyes filled with frustration and guilt. "I don't know yet. I'm trying to figure out how to protect everything we've built, but it's going to be a battle. And I need you to understand that this is bigger than just us. This could change everything, and I'm scared of losing it all." Sarah felt a lump form in her throat. She had always known that life was full of uncertainties, but this was different. This was a fight that could shatter everything she had worked so hard for, everything she had believed in. But as she looked at David, she saw the same vulnerability she had seen in him before he was struggling, torn between loyalty to his family and the mission of the foundation. "David," Sarah said softly, reaching out and placing a hand on his. "You're not alone in this. We've built something amazing here, and I won't let it go down without a fight. I believe in what we're doing, and I believe in you. If you need help, I'm here. We'll find a way together." David looked up at her, surprise and relief flooding his face. "You really mean that?" "I do," Sarah replied, her voice steady. "We've been through too much to give up now. We'll figure this out." David nodded slowly, a sense of determination returning to his expression. "Okay. I'll do everything I can to protect the foundation. And I promise you, I won't let my family's influence take it away from us. We'll fight for it." For the first time in a long time, Sarah felt a renewed sense of hope. She knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but together, she and David were strong enough to face whatever challenges came their way. The foundation had brought them together, and it was their shared mission that would keep them united, no matter the obstacles. Sarah didn't know what the future held, but she was ready to fight for it side by side with David, and with the hope that they could make a real difference in the world. Asterisk, asterisk. A single mother was thrown out of the church after the wedding until a millionaire stepped forward. Asterisk, asterisk. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. In the weeks following the tense conversation with David, Sarah found herself in the midst of a whirlwind. David's family's pressure was mounting, and it seemed like every day brought new challenges. He spent countless hours working on strategies to maintain control over the foundation, while Sarah poured herself into the work at the community center, trying to keep everything running smoothly. But despite their efforts, the tension between David and his family grew more palpable by the day. It felt like a constant tug of war, with David caught in the middle. One afternoon, Sarah received a call from David, his voice filled with urgency. "I need to see you. Can you meet me at the office? It's important." A knot formed in Sarah's stomach. She knew the situation was becoming more serious. "I'll be there soon," she replied, trying to remain calm. When Sarah arrived at the office, David was pacing, his expression tight with frustration. He turned when he saw her and immediately motioned for her to sit. "I don't know how to say this, but I think my family is getting ready to make their move," he said, his voice low. "They've been making demands, and if I don't give in, I fear they'll cut the funding for the foundation completely." Sarah's heart sank. "But we've worked so hard for this," she said, struggling to hold back the wave of emotion that was threatening to overwhelm her. "How can they just take it all away?" David ran a hand through his hair, his face filled with frustration. "It's not just about money, Sarah. They're using the foundation as a bargaining chip. They want me to merge the foundation with their business, and I'm being forced to choose between my family and everything we've built here." Sarah could see the weight of the decision pressing on David's shoulders. She knew how much the foundation meant to him, how deeply he cared about the mission. But she also knew that his family's influence was not something easily ignored. "David, you've already proven you can stand your ground. We can find another way. I know it won't be easy, but we can keep fighting." David looked at her, his eyes filled with gratitude. "You don't know how much it means to hear you say that. I don't want to let this go, but I'm starting to feel like I don't have any options left." Sarah leaned forward, her determination hardening. "You do have options. We both do. We've already made it this far, and we can't back down now. Let's work together. We'll find a solution. We'll go to the board. We'll talk to the donors. We'll make them see how much the foundation matters." David's expression softened as he looked at her. "You're right," he said. "We've built something amazing here. I can't just hand it over. I won't. Let's take this fight to them." The next few days were filled with planning and strategizing. David and Sarah worked together to prepare a presentation for the board of directors, one that would highlight the foundation's impact on the community and make a compelling case for why it needed to remain independent. They worked late into the night, fueled by a shared determination to protect everything they had worked for. Finally, the day of the meeting arrived. Sarah sat beside David in the conference room, her nerves on edge but her resolve unwavering. The board members filed in, taking their seats at the long table. The atmosphere was tense, and Sarah could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her. David stood up, his voice steady as he began to speak. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his tone firm, I stand before you today not just as the CEO of this foundation, but as someone who believes in the mission we've created. This foundation has changed lives, and it's a vital part of this community. I will not let it be consumed by corporate interests. Sarah watched as David continued, his words powerful and passionate. It was clear that he wasn't just fighting for the foundation, he was fighting for everything they had built together, for the people who depended on them. As he spoke, Sarah could see the board members beginning to listen, their skeptical expressions softening. When the meeting finally ended, the decision had not yet been made, but Sarah could feel a shift in the room. The board was not willing to give up without hearing more, and David had earned their respect. As they left the conference room, David turned to Sarah, a mixture of exhaustion and hope in his eyes. "We did it," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "We stood our ground. Now we just have to wait and see what happens." Sarah smiled at him, feeling a sense of pride and accomplishment. "We did more than that," she said. "We showed them what this foundation means, and we'll keep fighting no matter what." As Sarah left the office that day, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. The battle wasn't over, but for the first time, she felt like they had a real chance at winning. She had come so far in her journey, and now, with David by her side, she knew she wasn't just fighting for the foundation. She was fighting for a future filled with hope, determination, and the belief that anything was possible. Asterisk, asterisk. A single mother was thrown out of the church after the wedding until a millionaire stepped forward. Asterisk, asterisk. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. The days following the tense meeting with the board members had been filled with uncertainty. David and Sarah knew they had made a strong case for the foundation's future, but the board's decision was still pending. The weight of their fight had taken its toll on both of them. But as they waited for the final decision, a new kind of tension began to build between them. While they had come together in the face of the foundation's crisis, Sarah realized she had been keeping her emotions in check, afraid to acknowledge the feelings that had been growing inside her. She had never allowed herself to fully trust anyone after everything she had been through. But now, with David's honesty and their shared fight for the foundation, those walls she had built around herself were starting to crumble. She was falling for him, and it was a realization that left her both scared and exhilarated. David, too, seemed to be struggling with the growing bond between them. He had always been professional, keeping a careful distance, but there were moments when his gaze lingered on Sarah a little longer than usual, when his touch seemed to mean something more than just comfort. He had kept his feelings guarded, afraid that acknowledging them might complicate their already difficult situation. But after everything they had been through together, he couldn't ignore what was happening between them any longer. One evening, after another long day of working to secure the future of the foundation, David invited Sarah to dinner. As they sat across from each other at a small, intimate restaurant, Sarah could feel the unspoken tension between them. The usual light conversation they shared now felt heavier, charged with something neither of them had the courage to name. David was the first to break the silence. "Sarah, I've been thinking a lot about everything about the foundation, about what's at stake, and about us." Sarah looked up at him, her heart skipping a beat. "What do you mean?" David took a deep breath, his eyes searching hers for a moment before he spoke again. "I've been trying to keep my feelings in check because I didn't want to complicate things. But I can't ignore it anymore. I care about you, Sarah, more than I thought I could care about anyone." Sarah's breath caught in her throat. She had felt the same way, but hearing him say it out loud made her heart race. "David, I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," David said, his voice soft. "I just needed you to know how I feel. I don't want to keep pretending like this isn't something real." Sarah looked down at her hands, unsure of how to respond. She had spent so many years protecting herself from getting hurt, building walls around her heart. And now, with David, it felt like those walls were coming down. Could she really let herself trust him? Could she take the risk of falling for him? "I've been scared too," Sarah admitted quietly, her voice trembling slightly. "Scared of getting hurt again, scared of what this could mean." But I don't want to keep pushing you away, either. I've been avoiding my feelings for so long, and I think I'm ready to see where this could go." David reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "You don't have to have all the answers right now, Sarah. We're both figuring this out. But I want to be with you, if you'll have me." Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes as she squeezed his hand. "I want that too," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I've spent so much of my life wondering if I could ever be happy again. But with you, I feel like maybe it's possible." For a moment, they sat in silence, the weight of their shared emotions hanging in the air. It wasn't a fairy tale, and they both knew that. There were still challenges ahead, both with the foundation and with their personal lives. But for the first time in a long time, Sarah felt like she had found something worth fighting for, not just the foundation, but the chance at a life with David by her side. Over the next few days, as the board made their final decision, Sarah and David grew closer. Their conversations became more open, more honest, and the bond between them deepened. They were no longer just two people fighting for a cause. They were two people who had found something real in each other, something that made all the struggles worth it. Finally, the decision came. The board had voted to keep the foundation independent, thanks to their efforts. The relief that washed over Sarah and David was overwhelming. They had won. The foundation would continue to help the people who needed it most, and Sarah had found something even more important, someone who truly cared about her. As they stood together, facing the future, Sarah realized that no matter what came next, they had already built something powerful together. And with David by her side, she was ready to face whatever challenges life might throw at them. Asterisk, asterisk, a single mother was thrown out of the church after the wedding until a millionaire stepped forward. Asterisk, asterisk. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Months passed since Sarah and David's decision to fight for the foundation. Their shared determination to keep it independent had not only solidified their mission but also their relationship. They had faced numerous obstacles, family pressures, corporate demands, and even their own doubts, but through it all, they had built something stronger than either had anticipated. They had found their purpose in fighting for the foundation, and in the process, they had found each other. Sarah felt like she was standing on solid ground for the first time in years. She had worked tirelessly to rebuild her life, and now, with David by her side, she felt like she was finally living the life she had always wanted. She had her son, she had the work she loved, and most importantly, she had someone who cared deeply for her. David, too, had changed. He had always been a man of great resolve, but now, as he worked alongside Sarah, he was more than just the businessman who had built a foundation. He was someone who had discovered what it meant to love and to be loved, to stand by someone through thick and thin. The relationship he had developed with Sarah had taught him more than any business deal ever could. It had taught him the true meaning of partnership, of vulnerability, and of trust, and he was ready to see where that trust could take them. One evening, after a particularly successful fundraising event for the foundation, David and Sarah found themselves alone in the office. The celebration had been full of laughter and applause, but as the last of the guests left, an unspoken quiet settled between them. Sarah felt a calm sense of peace wash over her. The foundation was secure. The work they had done was having an impact, and life was moving forward. But in that moment, she realized there was one thing left to do, one thing she had been waiting for without even knowing it. David turned to her, a smile spreading across his face. "I've been thinking, Sarah," he said, his voice soft and sincere. "We've been through so much together, and I couldn't be more grateful for everything you've done for the foundation, for me, and for yourself. I don't know where I'd be without you." Sarah's heart fluttered as she looked at him, the warmth of his words sinking in. "David, I feel the same way. I never imagined that I could have something like this. You've shown me what it means to trust again, to believe that there's more to life than just surviving." David stepped closer, taking her hand in his. "Sarah, I know that our journey hasn't been easy, but I've never been more sure of anything in my life. I want to be with you. I want to build something more, not just for us, but for our future. As Sarah looked into David's eyes, she knew that this was the moment she had been waiting for. All the fears, the doubts, and the barriers she had built around herself seemed to melt away. She had spent so many years alone, protecting herself from the possibility of hurt. But now, with David standing in front of her, she realized that the risk was worth it. "I want that too," Sarah said, her voice trembling with emotion. "I've never felt more certain of anything." David smiled, his face filled with relief and joy. "Then, let's take this step together. Let's build something that matters not just for us, but for everyone who believes in the foundation we've created." And so, as the city lights twinkled in the distance, Sarah and David made a promise to each other to face whatever came next, together. They didn't know exactly what the future would hold, but they were ready for it. They had built something beautiful from the ground up, and they knew that with each other's support, they could face any challenge. As Sarah looked out the window, her hand still in David's, she realized that life had taken her on a journey she never expected, but one that had brought her more joy, love, and fulfillment than she could have ever imagined. She had fought for a better life, and now, with David by her side, she knew she had found it. The future was uncertain, but it was also full of possibilities. Together, they would create a life that would make a difference not just for themselves, but for everyone they helped along the way. In this inspiring and heartfelt tale, a single mother finds herself cast out of a church after her wedding, only to have her life changed forever when a millionaire steps forward to offer her a chance at a new beginning. Through twists and turns, Sarah, the single mother, battles personal challenges, building her career and a foundation dedicated to helping others, with the support of David, a millionaire with a heart for change. As the story unfolds, Sarah and David's connection grows deeper, and the struggles they face together create a powerful story of trust, resilience, and love. This millionaire story showcases the transformative power of second chances, as Sarah learns to trust again, fight for the things that matter, and take a leap of faith in both love and life. Amidst the obstacles, Sarah and David fight for the foundation's survival, battling against external pressures and discovering the strength within themselves. In the end, they find that together, they can build not only a successful foundation but also a life filled with hope and love. If you love powerful and life-changing millionaire stories, this one will leave you inspired, as it highlights the importance of taking risks, trusting others, and never giving up on building a better future. Millionaire stories like these remind us that no matter the odds, there is always a chance to rewrite your story and find happiness, success, and love. This tale is a testament to the idea that no matter where you come from or what challenges you face, millionaire stories can reveal the strength of the human spirit and the importance of second chances.